everyone please stand and give a warm welcome to the star of the show, the one and only Mr. John Farrell.
Yeah.
James from New Zealand.
Yeah. Good morning.
You play a little rugby there, James?
Hey, I'm more of a football guy, so.
Okay. Look, Mary's back. Let's add Mary. I love it. Woohoo! And her tea's hot too. So
my tea is hot. Yep.
Okay, so we've got Patrick behind the scenes who's gonna he's kind of managing the thing for us, and he gave me a little more background on what we're gonna try to do. I'm glad you guys are here, and I put it on Facebook, so there might be 12 people by the time we're done. We'll see.
Right on.
What mostly got us started was this young lady on YouTube named Nathalie Domina. And she says 5 qualities to look for in a Catholic woman. And we're going to play a little of her, which is why we got this thing started in the first place. Let me see if I can get her up here. Let's see, present. Let's see. I gotta stop. Wait. Stop sharing. Let me find her. See if I can get her up here. Share screen. Okay, boom. That's her right there. Share. Here we go. And then let's listen to her, okay? And then we're going to comment a little bit. But let's listen. Here we go.
Okay.
So make sure you go check that out as well. And yeah, let's just get on with today's video because this intro has been very long. So the first quality that men should look for in women is that they are cooperative. And what does this even mean? I know what cooperative means, but Mary, as the mother of God, she was the ultimate example of a cooperative human being. She listened to God's will and cooperated with God's plan to be able to bring the Son of God into existence. He is also known as the co-redemptrix, because he worked with God, and that's what your woman also be doing. She should be discerning God's will on the daily. She should be trying to strive to cooperate with His plan. So whether that mean for being a meek person, a humble, or whatever virtue, is that she's trying to cooperate with the plan, and whatever's set before her is that she prays and discerns about it. So not that she does her way or the highway, but that you see her like striving to pray about this and to really ask friends for advice, and that you can just see that she's trying to work with others, and she's not like a self-centered type of person, but that she.
Okay, well, I guess she's just saying general stuff. I don't see what's the objection to that, but it's not specific to wife. She's just being, can you be like an overall nice person? I don't get much out of that.
To cooperate with the great scheme of entering heaven. You also want a woman that's able to suffer well. Mary had to endure.
All right, I don't even know why that's a big deal. Why we played that, but let's go to the other. Share this tab instead. This is part 2 of what she said. This is what Patrick had suggested we talk about, and then there's more to go. But I think the main thing we're focusing on is that she's got submission, and what that means is kind of neutered. And here, let's listen.
Woman that can just bring such peacefulness to even her children and to others. Another quality that a Catholic woman needs is to be supportive and care for her man. So not only does this mean like caring for men, but also supportive of her friends and family and other people around them, supporting them with prayer and supporting them with good advice. Because St. Paul writes about a woman being submissive to her husband, meaning submission under the submission, and that she supports whatever her husband does as long as it's under God's will.
All right, Mary, did you hear anything less than perfect about that?
No. You might have to replay it, but I didn't hear anything that was off.
Okay, because she said, here, I'll go back a little bit. Listen.
Husband, meaning submission under the same mission, and that she supports whatever her husband does as long as it's under God's will.
She supports whatever her husband does as long as it's under God's will. So how do we determine? So what if she thinks something is not under God's will, but he says it is? You see what I mean? Then
can we come up with an example? What if he's like spending all his money on marijuana, and he wants her to get high with him.
Well, that's objective sin. So obey in all things but objective sin.
I think that's all she's saying there.
Probably, but there's a, let's keep listening. You might be right.
Okay.
Or at least striving for God's will. So something that a woman should do is be supportive to friends and family and other people, and just, really embrace that side of being submissive, but not in an oppressive way, because we should never be oppressed. That
Being submissive, not in a, okay, hold on, we'll keep going.
Undermines our dignity, but women should be supportive and should, really just help their man or friends and family just really follow God's will. So not only should they be following it themselves, but also help others to follow that, because if you're a man, you want your woman to like be your teammate.
Anyway, I guess it was just kind of weak, and it left open the question of what does submission mean. She just says, as long as you're not being oppressed.
Oh,
and
she
then,
did say that?
Yeah. Here, let's listen again.
Yeah, I want
to really just help their man or friends and family just really follow God's will. So not only should they be following it themselves, but also help others. Should do is be supportive to friends and family and other people, and just woman being submissive to her husband, meaning submission under the same mission, and that she supports whatever her husband does as long as it's under God's will, or at least striving for God's will. So something that a woman should do is be supportive to friends and family and other people, and just, really embrace that side of being submissive, but not in an oppressive way, because we should never be oppressed.
Not in an oppressive way, because we should never be oppressed. So what would be an example? So
what is she says, don't be submissive, but not in an oppressive way. Is that
because
what she said?
We should never be oppressed because we have dignity.
Okay, so be submissive, but not in an oppressive way.
For God's will. So something that a woman should do is be supportive to friends and family and other people, and just, really embrace that side of being submissive, but not in an oppressive way, because we should never be oppressed. That undermines our dignity.
We should never be oppressed because that undermines our dignity. So it sounds like she's saying, as long as everything's basically driving with me, I can be submissive. But if I'm feeling like my dignity is being oppressed, I don't need to obey my husband. Do you get that? Is that what it sounds like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. What I still think it's good to have examples. So what would be an example of being oppressive? Like, what?
I guess I don't. Sorry.
How would a husband oppress his wife? Is it possible for a husband to oppress his wife? Is that even possible?
I don't think so. No, because something Timothy Gordon said recently, which was good. He said, wives are to obey their husbands in all things except grave sin. Not just sin, but mortal sin. In other words, it has to be defined. So rather than, you're telling us we're going to move to this house in Key West or wherever, or whatever we're going to do, I'm feeling oppressed by that, and therefore I'm not going to be submissive here because this is beneath my dignity, what you're doing. And
I don't think that's fair to her, because you're giving her your definition of oppressive is not really a good one, right? Forcing her to move, making the family move to Key West is not oppressive. Now,
okay.
We got what would be a fair interpretation of the word oppressive? Like,
I'm sorry. I guess my point is that it doesn't even matter what the definition is, because oppression has nothing to do with obey your husband in all things, except grave sin.
Well, I'm guessing there are some ways that a wife could be oppressed. I'm just trying to think of one. This is kind of like your definition about there is no such thing as marital rape. It's like stealing your own car, right?
Right.
This is where
that's right.
There's no wiggle room. There's no daylight between oppression and obeying your husband.
Oppression, recession. It's all the same thing, man. When you start using words like true love or oppression or dignity in a legal sense, you've lost, because it's like, I'll pay my mortgage as long as I don't feel oppressed by my bank. Okay. Well, what does that mean? It means what I think it means. Therefore, I'm not paying the mortgage because I'm feeling oppressed right now. So the contract is, it's $3,000 on the 5th of every month. That's it.
But I don't even think the Catholic Church teaches that that extreme of a position. So, for example, the Catholic Church supports the right to strike. Workers can strike. So, there is a point where workers are being oppressed or are being
okay, but we're
not meeting the other side has moral obligations. The employer has moral obligations, and the employees aren't morally obligated to just suck it up and keep going. They can go on strike to get better conditions or better pay. So
sure.
I would apply that kind of is that an analogy to this kind of situation?
I don't know, because the marriage contract and the way marriage is structured has some black and whites to it. Like saying, I can commit adultery if I'm feeling oppressed. No, you can't ever, but you can if you're trying to negotiate for wages or changes, and that's all that stuff is gray area. So when you were saying, I don't know if the Catholic Church teaches what kind of, and that gave me an idea to just go to the next slide here, and then we can go through some of the stuff from what the church teaches, and take it from there. So here, this is the 1917 Code of Canon Law. What the primary end here, we can see it is procreation and education, and the secondary is secondary. And when you say primary, that means it's essential. So no one has a right to mutual support or remedy for concupiscence without procreation. The procreation must come first. So, and while we're on it here, the essential properties of marriage are unity and indissolubility. Unity just means exclusivity. That's all that means. It doesn't mean lots of hearts in the air when I give you a hug and all that stuff. No, that's not what it means. That's what a lot of people say. It's a weasel term. So this is like just the basics. Okay, so here's our canon. You're familiar with that encyclical, right? Yep.
I am not, but I am familiar. I mean, Leo the 13th.
Oh, really? Okay, that's our canon was the Casti Connubii is the follow up to our canon, and they go hand in hand. And Casti says everything that our canon said is the deal. Okay, the man is the ruler of the family, the head of the woman. Okay, but that's because she comes from him and not him coming from her. Nothing, so that nothing be lacking of honor or dignity in the obedience which she pays. Let divine charity be the constant rule of their mutual relations, both in him and who rules, and she her who obeys. So as long as charity is what keeps the dignity there, nothing be lacking. Anyway, that's good. And I want to say some other stuff about that in a minute. So the Roman Catechism definition of marriage, the conjugal union. These are all slides that Patrick down in New Zealand put together. The conjugal union of of man and woman contracted between the two qualified persons obliges them to live together throughout life. So there's when you start saying I need to not be oppressed and I have my dignity or whatever, then you can't really claim that as a legal right, because you're going to be bailing out of your conjugal union, because you don't have goes back to the beginning. The primary end, the only essential end, the only thing you have a right to is procreation and education of children. You don't have the secondary ends independent don't exist for you. You have to go through the primary. Okay, so the essence and cause of marriage, without the consent and contract, that's what you have to have for marriage. The consent and the contract. So that contract has terms, and lack of oppression is not in the contract. See, it's just the right to the conjugal act. That is the contract. All right.
Okay. So, but that's talking about the indissolubility of the marriage. I think she's talking about being obedient to your husband. So you're already in the marriage. She's not suggesting divorce. She's just saying obey unless you're being oppressed. I mean,
yeah, I agree. We're crossing into two different things. I'm just trying to go through these slides, but you're right.
All right.
Okay, so the Trent Catechism here, the principal object which a female should propose for herself in marriage is to become a mother. Okay, yeah, all right, cool. The duties of a husband, it was not hers to command, but to obey her husband. So that means even if she's feeling oppressed, she has to obey, as long as it's not he's not telling her to commit sin or grave sin. So if he says we're going to do this and she's thinking I don't know about that, it's on him. If just like the bishop is in charge of the priest, they got to do what he says.
In a general sense, I agree. Yeah, if he says.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Where I think the problem here is all this theology of the body, and the NFP has to create a new purpose for the conjugal act, right? And that new purpose is the secondary purposes right up here. The mutual support, mutual aid, and remedy for concupiscence. Those are the new purpose. This is the new primary purpose, and they call it love or whatever. That's the new primary purpose. So therefore, if that is the primary purpose, you no longer have the husband is no longer, the wife is no longer to obey her husband in all things, because that wrecks her dignity, because she has the right to love. The life comes from love after Vatican II, not the other way around. That's the problem because the contract terms have been changed when you change that primary purpose. Duties of a husband, he is also to keep all his family in order, to correct their morals, and to see they faithfully discharge their duties. Fine. Let wives be subject to their husbands. Yep. Okay. This goes on and on. Let's see. Being in subjection to their own husbands, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. That means you have if he says, you got to be careful who you marry, but you want to know God's will, it comes from your husband. What else are you supposed to gather from that, Mary?
I think, yes, you're right. You got to be careful who you marry. And, I mean, maybe at the end of the day, that's the only thing you can cling on. That's the thing you can only cling on to is because we're talking about marriages that are unhappy, right? We're not. The problem is we're talking about people that are in unhappy marriages. What is allowed, what isn't allowed, right? So maybe at the end of the day, women in unhappy marriages, that's going to get you into heaven, is just sticking with this jerk. Let's just.
But
they're out there. They're out there. Believe me.
All guys are jerks. Because they're not perfect. So they're saying, do this. It's like, you get two people in a room, someone's going to jerk out. It's
right.
Like, and now what do you do? So this is why you said your path to heaven and all that, except when you muddy the waters and say obedience is dependent on not feeling oppressed, you've just negated the whole obedience thing. So
I would just go back to a better. So you're saying it's not a sinful, if it's not a sinful act, or he's not trying to get her to get an abortion or smoke pot or do something weird, then she needs to go along with it. Because I'm still trying to find what her definition of an oppressive situation would be.
I guess we could ask her. I think all her definition of oppression is when she's feeling like it's totally cramping her style and she's not being listened to or heard. So she's feeling oppressed.
So the guy's just being a guy.
Yeah, like she says, no shoes in the house for the kids, or no shoes in the house, and he's like, no, and we're going to burn plastic, and we're going to change the thermostat while we're at it. Burn plastic in the fireplace, and we're going to lower the thermostat, and we are going to wear shoes in the house. And she's like, I'm the one cleaning the house. I'm freezing. I hate the smell of plastic, and you're oppressing me, and I'm not doing it. And now who's right? Who's right?
She's just got to get better at fighting back.
Right. I tell everyone knows guys will do anything for you if you just know how to get there.
Yeah,
they really will.
Right.
That's right. So you don't.
That's right.
You want to go? Go ahead.
You don't learn that until you're like way down the field.
But it comes naturally if you don't set up for failure by having but if you got to have that contract laid out in the first place, so that otherwise everyone's like, okay, everyone mutually submit, and then the guy turns into a simp because he's just trying to mutually submit, and then she's like, I'm bigger and stronger than you. Watch me operate. And the guy's like, okay, I guess I'll sacrifice harder. And then she's like, you're a wimp, but I'm trying to sacrifice for you because it says I'm supposed to lay down my life. So I'm going to wear my socks in the house now just because that's what you want. And whatever. I don't know.
She needs to just take the batteries out of the TV remote.
Let wives be subject to their, okay, we're getting there. We're almost done. We're getting there. Okay. Roman Catechism, duties of a wife in subjection to their, calling them Lord. Okay, cool. Yes.
Okay, but how many wives is the church serious? Am I supposed to call my husband? Yes, my Lord. Yes, my Lord. I put that on Twitter. I put that on somebody's. I put that on Bug Hall's Twitter page.
Yeah.
He was going on about women being submissive, and I just posted, women, what's stopping you from saying to your husband, yes, my Lord.
Yes, my Lord. Yeah. With an English accent.
Yes, my Lord. And I got no likes, and I got no laughs, I got no feedback. And nobody's calling their husband Lord, right? But are we supposed to be doing that?
Yeah, but you don't have to use the L word twice a day or anything. Lord, you could say love, I guess. But no. It's a point is that it's like obeying your parents. You obey your husband because this is where God's will. Just like when you're in the monastery, you obey your superior. He says, right, you're getting up at 4 a.m. and you're going to walk a mile. That's what y'all are doing. You do it. It's God's will because you're there to obey. That's you're there to, that's what your thing is. So once we get this down, marriage falls into place. The guy will do anything for the wife because it's this natural. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially when she's doing that. It's just natural. And otherwise it's a setup for failure, but you've got to get that contract defined right in the first place. So it's not this mutual giving of self stuff. No. Okay. Everyone's heard this one. This is a Tim Gordon favorite. The wife should love to remain at home unless compelled by necessity to go out. She should never presume to leave her home without her husband's consent. Yeah.
I like that one a lot. I wish.
Have you heard that before?
No, I have not. But now this is an old catechism, right? Don't they have? Did they cut this all out?
Yeah, it's the Council of Trent Catechism.
Oh, but now have they cut this out of the new canon law? Is this still in there?
It's not canon law. This is like the most.
Oh, this is a catechism. Okay.
This is the most authoritative catechism from Trent.
I understand that, but is this in the new catechism? This wording?
No way. Are you kidding? No. Okay. They don't negate it. They just use hints of nicer, fluffier terms. But
Okay.
even John Paul II has said that basically the woman's place is in the home, all that. None of them have said differently, but it's all nuanced to the max because we have to make room for the new definition of nature.
Right.
Nature is Michael Knowles had a little he showed something on his show Friday where there all these gay marriage people were talking about how animals are gay too. And then they, like the zebra is doing this and the ocelot's doing that or whatever. And they said, because it's not just for procreation, and animals know that. That's the whole lie right there. And we have to, because marriage is no longer primarily for procreation per the spirit of Vatican II, all this stuff that you see here is out the window because of this dignity business. So it's just there's a, I should try to find it. I made a meme. Basically, when you have mutual submission, it's a matriarchy. That's what happens. It just is because she overpowers in sentiment and argumentation, all that. There's no such saying as hell hath no fury like a man scorned. No. So,
yeah. Hell hath no fury like a man scorned.
No, obviously the guy can pick her up and throw her out the window with one hand, but he's not going to do that. So if you got mutual submission, she pushes him all over the place with her will because she's saying this is it just takes over. It just will take over. Unless it's kept in bounds by this contract and what goes along with it. Okay, duties of the wife, yielding to them in all things. Okay, this is also in Casti Connubii. The wife is to yield to the husband in all things, a willing and not inconsistent with Christian piety. That's another way of saying that's not inconsistent. That's without all things but sin, a willing and ready obedience. So, and that's why I think it was kind of cool what Timothy Gordon, you know him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed out that it's not all things but sin, but all things but grave sin. Because someone could say, you want to, you're having thermostat wars or which car you're going to get. You're saying, I think this is sinful, what you're doing with our money. So I'm not going along with this. And no, we're not buying that car because I think what you're doing is improper and it's sinful. So I'm not obeying you because I have dignity. You're oppressing me. I don't think you should spend the family money this way. And it's sinful.
Well, we're back to this definition of what is it? Oppression. Yeah, I wouldn't call that oppression. I'm trying to get a better handle on what oppression would look like. I mean, if the woman is defining it as, whatever makes me feel bad or is just, let's be honest, her husband's just doing something stupid and he's not listening to her, that maybe that's oppression. I'm trying to think if I've ever felt oppressed.
It might be, but
hey, what if her husband isn't committee won't perform the marital act? Is that oppression? Because her vocation, her role is to be a mother. And what if he's
that's not oppression, but that's not okay. If he's reneging on the marital debt, that's illegal. It's not. He's not oppressing her, but he is violating the contract.
It seems like oppression to me. I mean,
okay.
Now we've got here the guys over on the comments. Oppression is a feeling. Well, that's a problem because it should be something.
Right. Oppression is not the benchmark here.
James says there can be genuine oppression, though.
Okay.
So do we have an example of that?
Okay, I guess oppression would be the opposite of love or charity. So, like we read earlier up on these things, charity is big. You got to have that, okay? But charity isn't in the contract. It's not a legal thing that you can put in your calculator, and neither is oppression. So when you say, I have a right to not be oppressed, then the other spouse can say, I have a right to charity. So who wins? Okay. Something Patrick there once said. He's like, it's like arguing over the shape of a cloud. What is it? That's not what marriage is based on. It's based on the contract, and things fall into place from there if she has to obey. Like I said, marriage is just set up for crazy today, and this is why I think there's this explosion of like people like this girl on YouTube talking about what to look for in a husband and all this kind of stuff. If you can't define what marriage is, you're floundering to try to get the chemistry and the whole thing right or whatever. And the success. I need a successful marriage. Things used to just kind of happen normally when you defined it. And that's kind of why I got started making some of these videos, because, and like I said, I what's her face? Pearl Davis had seen some of them, and she's like, you got to come on the show and talk about this. I kind of consider her sort of in a remote way, a female version of Jordan Peterson, because she kind of blurts out a lot of truthful things in a weird way. She just does,
Yeah, I mean, she's refreshing because she's like pulling the rope back in the other direction. She's saying stuff that, you just haven't been able to say for a long time.
Women shouldn't vote. I don't even know how to deal with that. I mean, that's crazy. You start saying that, that's just insane.
I was saying that 2 years ago, but I don't have a YouTube channel.
It's to defend it, but she just comes out and she says all this stuff, and she explains also. Oh, hey, I got to get to. We'll come back to this. Let me see something. Let's go to Cornelius here. I'm gonna go to this.
Okay, because James had some comments over here, which I thought were good. Now he says that he's seeing marriage as a partnership, but I think, John, you would disagree with that, right?
Marriage is not a partnership. It's not what I disagree. It's what the church defines marriage as. This marriage as a partnership is a Vatican II invention.
Well,
hey, why are we getting James on the screen? What's the deal? Add to stage.
I don't know.
Where'd you go, boy? Wait. Is he there? Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I don't know where you've been.
Yeah. What I mean by partnership is that, like, the man should lead. Like, I'm not against that, obviously. And it's like season in Ephesians, the man should lead and the wife submit. They should work together. And I would say there's kind of genuine oppression. Like, if the husband said the wife couldn't leave the house, that would be oppression, right? But so I don't know what the solution would be there. But it's a discernment. So the wife should really discern who is a good husband to lead her to heaven ultimately. So, but the essence of marriage. Where did you get this partnership idea? I just mean like partnership in the sense that, like, the woman should have a say, kind of like have her input in how the house is run, but the man should sign off on it. So it's the man's always leading, but the woman shouldn't be like oppressed in the sense that her opinion should not be voiced. Like, she should definitely have a say in how things are run, but the man is the final authority on the matter. Right.
So that's not a partner. Okay. If you nowadays, go ahead.
Well, it's I don't know how I'd define. I don't know. I would say it's a partnership. Like, a marriage is two people coming together, one flesh. So
no, you're just saying kind of Vatican II stuff. Words have meaning.
I love Vatican II, by the way. So
fine, you can love it, but it doesn't.
Ecumenical Council. So it's the church has propagated it. So
I know the church propagated it, but there's nothing binding in it regarding faith and morals. You can't say the Trinity has 4 people in it because of Vatican II. You know what I'm saying? So,
that's a ridiculous example because Vatican II never says that. But
I know, but Vatican II says that marriage is a love contract, and it's not.
Well, you'd have to show me where that is in Vatican II.
Gaudium et Spes 48. Okay, marriage is not a love compact.
But I'm sure in Vatican II even it says that the primary reason is procreation. So
wrong. It doesn't say that. Correct. All gone. It's not there. Vatican II just says there's purposes in marriage. and the crowning glory of your marriage is procreation.
What document? Because I've got the beautiful Bishop Barron book here. So
yeah, whatever, dude. You
Yeah.
can't.
So are you guys? Do you attend the SSPX or like where are we?
No, I go to Novus Ordo during the week.
Okay, awesome.
And I wouldn't say it's awesome. I keep my eyes closed because the priest is facing the wrong way.
When the rubrics is done correctly, I've been to beautiful Novus Ordo masses, but
okay,
like,
so I go to Novus Ordo, Monday through Saturday, and then NAM.
Didn't Vatican II? I'm pretty sure it said Latin is the language of the church, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like this comment we just got. Marriage is for purification, and it is a penance. Boy,
Where are
ain't
you
that
getting
the
I
truth.
don't even see these comments.
You don't see the comments? There's like a private chat on the right hand side. So James and Patrick.
Is it on Facebook or what? No.
No. I'm just on
I don't see any.
StreamYard. Do you have StreamYard open or Facebook?
Yeah. I don't see any.
There must be a menu that you need to open up or something.
I'll just rely on you to do it for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay. So, I don't mind diving into Vatican II and stuff, but we'll stay focused here for a little bit. Because marriage has an objective definition, James. Okay. And if you use only Vatican II stuff, you cannot define marriage. Impossible. It's impossible to define it because you can't define partnership or love or love contract.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to be having a Vatican II debate, or I would have read up.
This is the whole reason we're here now, is because marriage is lawless because it's undefined. After Vatican II, they took the definition of marriage and put it in the basement, and we don't go there anymore. It's a love thing, bro. And that's why. Huh?
Yeah, right. Okay, no, I was just saying, you can look at like Ephesians, it's kind of wives submit to your husband. And so.
Well, fine. But we're talking about the definition of marriage. So, okay, so let's go back to oppression real quick. Let me go here. We can go, let me see. Sorry. Let me see if I can get this. Here we go. Let me see if I can get it bigger. Can you guys see that okay on the screen?
I can.
Okay. This is Cornelius a Lapide, the Jesuit priest from 1600s, or he's the cat's meow. He was talking about dignity and equal dignity. I remember when Michael Knowles was debating Pearl Davis, or no, excuse me, Trent Horn was debating Pearl Davis, and he asked her, do men and women have equal dignity? And she kind of was like, what do you mean? But eventually he teased it out of her. But apparently men and women don't have equal dignity, James. Check this out. So he's explaining Adam came first, then Eve. Adam was not seduced, but the woman was seduced. This means the woman must remain silent and learn. This is not to be, and that is not teach and be. She needs to be subject to her husband because, whoops, I messed that up. Hang on. Because the man excels her first because of the dignity of being first in creation. So he's just a different creation because he came first. Sort of like the king has more dignity than the queen or the duke or the jack. You know, it's his office. And he came first. She was made for him. So his dignity is higher, and Adam was created first, then Eve from Adam. Secondly, because of the strength of his intelligence, I think what they mean there is, because you can have high IQ women and stuff, but men are able to have right brain, left brain, and they can think and reason and measure, whereas women tend to be a little more, I guess, holistic in how they process things. I've heard it said all girlfriends are different and all wives are the same. They just, so this is why they're really good at what they do, but men have got to be in charge because they can. I think that's why Pearl Davis likes to talk about no women voting, because the guys can think straighter on stuff.
So true.
But that doesn't work. By the way, James, if you got married today, your wife could just divorce and annul you because she could say, you have to accept equal partnership. Are you not married? Are you?
No, I'm not married. So, but
yes, you can get an
yeah,
annulment today.
Assume,
You
right?
get an annulment. You can get an annulment today if it's not an equal. It has to be an equal partnership, which means equal authority, or you can't do partnership / love, the new love contract. So all this patriarchy and man in charge stuff is out the window, because if you don't get with it, bro, she's going to divorce and get the annulment based on the fact that you're oppressive.
Well, that's why I would tell men to discern first, and I mean that it's biblical, so it's kind of man has to lead. So
okay, now Mary's getting active. Go ahead. She's getting
okay. We have a new participant. Her name is Amy, and she had made the comment up above that marriage is for purification and it is a penance. And I think that was a great comment.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Amy.
Hi, thanks.
Are you AKA the Rosary?
Yeah.
Oh, but we can't see a picture of you. Is that by design? Is it a bad hair day?
I'm just going to do audio if that's right.
Okay. Amy, what town are you in?
I'm in Albuquerque.
Got it. All right.
Mexico.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead. Well, I was just going to say one of the main things that we have to think about too is how the women, our biggest vice is pride, and the men, the biggest vice is sloth, and we get those from Adam and Eve, right? So in a marriage, I think we have to really focus on the purification of those two vices, and the best way for women to do that is to submit. And the best way for the men to do that is to take the responsibility.
Wow, that's politically incorrect, but very simply stated. And you're right. I saw General Schwarzkopf from Operation Desert Storm, like 1993 or something. He gave a talk, and he goes, "The first thing a commander must do is take charge," which sounds obvious, but that's what you just said. And what's really tough today is if we kind of go with what James is saying, that marriage is this partnership and a Vatican II contract or love compact, then you start taking charge and she's going to start feeling oppressed and not loved. If you see what I mean, unless you let her wear the pants, because you can't have two people in first place. It's just not going to work.
Well, yeah, the man should lead.
Yeah, he has. But he should lead, of course, and everyone says that, except when when you get two people in a room, somebody's going to get their toes stepped on. It's just a matter of time, and nobody likes that. So if you have an out, or you can say, this isn't fair, this isn't a two-way street, this isn't a partnership of love, this isn't a total gift of self, because you're standing on my toes. So you need to give your total self. You're oppressing me and it hurts, and I'm not signing up for this. Okay, James, what are you going to do? And if you don't do it right, I don't think our marriage is valid. It's not feeling valid to me.
Well, it's biblical, right? So wives submit to your husbands. So I don't know what we're saying here. And like, I would just go back to discernment. So you discern the woman that you're courting, and that she would submit, and you're on the same page. So, and you're both holy Catholics. So
yeah, like I said though, it's where submission. It's if somebody is not, if they're, like I said, if they're feeling oppressed or they're not feeling loved, if the marriage contract is,
but do you think there is genuine oppression in a marriage though, or
perhaps, but there's also genuine lack of charity in marriges. That's all it is. Marriage exists whether the amount of charity is irrelevant to a marriage, as far as whether it exists or not. Irrelevant. After Vatican II, it's the only relevant thing. That's all.
Well, I'm pretty sure even in, you keep on mentioning Vatican II, I'm pretty sure in Vatican II it still says procreation of children is the main ends of marriage. So you'd have to show me where that contradicts.
I can't show
church
you.
teaching.
It's all gone. Go ahead, Mary.
I was going to say, I don't agree with pitting the Vatican II documents against the Council of Trent. I think they need to
I don't think you can.
together, right? Don't you? Would you agree with that, James? I mean, it's all of a piece of
right. Yeah, it's the ecumenical council that the magisterian and popes have told us to adhere to. So it's kind of it's disobedience.
Okay.
It's funny because I think a wife should be obedient to the man, right? But he has to be a godly man. And there is genuine oppression, but you'd have to define it.
So he doesn't have to be a godly man, and he has to love his wife even if she's an ungodly woman.
Right, correct.
So
and this is why I go back to discernment. I know we're fallen and people can change, but so prayer obviously and sticking together. But
I think there's one thing.
Were you gonna go ahead, Amy? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that I would say about women, probably something controversial again, because I generally do say things controversial, but women are always testing the man to see if he is going to lead them on these decisions. So she will step forward and say something or do something to see how he's going to react. If he doesn't immediately start leading, then she, I think instinctually, decides she needs to lead. And then she really becomes dominant and tries to take over the entire relationship and be that person, because she doesn't want him to be slothful, right? So she, or she's uncomfortable with somebody who's not going to direct her and feels like, oh, I have to do it. And when that happens, it takes the whole marriage out of whack and changes the entire perspective, and the whole household becomes chaotic. And I think that's
then you just go to marriage counseling, right?
Bad idea.
So there's a cool website I like. It's called the Happy Wife School or whatever. And she says marriage counseling is gynocentric. It never works because it's all about the relationship and the feelings. And I think what you're saying, Amy, is that, like, the way this natural for a woman to do this after the fall, her feelings kind of validate what she's doing. She can't, in other words, it's just kind of, quote, comes naturally. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I think so. And I think that is just something that we see even in relationships when they're dating. And that just continues forward. If the woman realizes the man is not going to lead, he's not going to make the decisions that are hard, and he's relying on her or, submitting to her feelings, then she has to stand up and be dominant and take that prideful perspective.
And this kind of leads to, I don't mean to jump in here too much, but the key problem with what's going on with marriage today is the guy, when he's confronted with this, he's like, well, I guess I need to sacrifice harder and, quote, lay down my life. And she's wanting me to do all this stuff, which I think is weird, but I got to sacrifice myself. So it creates more of a downward spiral. Instead of him getting tough, he's trying to to stand up for what he needs to do. He tries to get sacrificial because this is kind of what he's told is the partnership groovy. And then this is where I think that's why I say things are set up for failure today, which is why we're here even talking about this stuff, just trying to get it on the record.
Mm-hmm.
Right quick about Vatican II. If you have, let's just say before Vatican II, the speed limit on your road was 50 miles an hour. After Vatican II, they just threw a blanket over the sign and they said speed limit is just drive safely. Okay. So it's not a change. They didn't reject the 50 or anything. They just didn't say speed limit 40 or speed limit 80. They just said have a safe drive and a meaningful drive. So it's not so Vatican II doesn't contradict what came before it. It just doesn't specify, because the church can't change anything that it's teaching. So and that's why when you look for what is the primary end of marriage in Vatican II, it's silent. They don't say, because once you say that, you define marriage objectively, then you can't have a legal right to not be oppressed. And that's kind of what the girl was saying in the beginning. I have a right to not be oppressed or whatever.
But
Nope.
but you would agree there's genuine oppression, right?
Who wouldn't? There's lack of charity, right, which is basically what that is. No spouse has perfect charity, so therefore there's going to be, quote, oppression. But I think what Amy is saying is sort of the way out is, and everyone else here, Mary too, is to submit and for the husband to take over, take charge. And like what I said to Mary in the beginning, I've heard this elsewhere too. Husbands just want their wives to be happy. That's the main thing they want. And so they'll do anything, really, as long as she's not fighting him. He'll take his shoes off in the house rather than being told to do it. If he knows she really wants it, he'll take his shoes off in the house or something, like whatever the example is. But if she kind of starts making him, he's like, eh. Okay. So let's finish this real quick. Someone got something there, Mary?
Yeah, Patrick has a question. He says, if you're ready to move on, actually, this is pertinent. He says, is genuine oppression the test for obedience? And I guess what's in my mind is, is this just the woman's cross to bear? Is this how she dies to self, by just accepting this oppression and obedience? This is, it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation. This is her path to heaven, is just
like Father Croppa used to say, that they call them saint makers. That's how it is.
Yeah. Your hair shirt. You're married to your hair shirt.
Yeah, and the guy he's got his own cross.
Yeah.
Well, as Catholics, right, we don't believe in divorce, but do you think it's ever acceptable, say, if the man is genuinely oppressing her, kind of keeping her locked up, saying, hey, Sally, whatever, you can't leave the house, but she leaves? Do you think that's acceptable, or do you think that's a cross she has to bear, that she has to stay in the house under this man?
She's got to stay in the house, and she can't leave if he says no.
Really?
Yes, really, because that's what Trent says. However, if it's, like, I don't know, she can't eat, or I don't know, man. That's just so weird. That's like a crazy example that nobody does. All right, no, there's nobody.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. That there are genuine forms of oppression, right? So, like, the man has to be Christ-like and he has to lead.
Oh, yeah. So you don't marry somebody who's going to freak out and do that. But even
if that's what I'm saying, though. But like,
even if he does, you're like, okay.
I've made that point that, like, it discernments and to be godly and pray together, right? And like statistically, that couples pray together, stay together, married couples. So,
well, we can also look at in Saint Augustine's Confessions. He talks about his mother. And so Saint Monica, she explains how all of the wives that she knew were being beat up, right? They would have black eyes and things, right? And complain about their husbands. And she would say, the best thing to do is whenever they're angry, you do not test them. Just be submissive and, try to get out of that situation, but don't talk back to them. Okay, so even back then, there was a lot of situations where the husbands were going so far as to beat their wives. And Saint Monica would always tell the wives, just be quiet, and find a better time and be more charitable toward your husband and wait until he's calmed down to talk to him and be reasonable. That way, you're not going to be hit, right? So for her, it seemed like her husband was also very angry. But as the wife, she stayed and she did her best to mitigate that situation. And she
Saint Monica, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Saint Augustine's dad was kind of a piece of work, I think. That's what I remember. That's right. There's all sorts of saint stories like that. So, and then I guess the wife can say, well, you're not letting me leave the house. There's no food in here. You have to do all the grocery shopping. You have to pick up the kids from school. You have to do, I'm not leaving because if you want me to leave, I can, but whatever. It's just, listen, let's finish this real quick here. Let me go back to this here. Okay, so she has second dignity. Not that she has second value, but it's the men and women they're just different. All right. Eve allowed herself to be seduced so easily and imprudently, but not Adam. Chrysostom said the same thing, noting following the example of first woman Eve, of all women here implicitly accused of imprudence and levity. Therefore, Primasius, whoever he is, teaches beautifully. The apostle teaches that women must be subject to their husbands because they are second in hierarchical order, but first in guilt. There, it's like, there it is. It's just, I don't know how.
Let me ask you, here's a question. Is it possible for us to live that way? I mean, honestly, is it possible to? I mean, I guess it's only saints that would be able to meet those criteria.
No, sorry. That's normal marriage. And there are people who are called to heroic virtue, and sometimes if your husband or your spouse is, comes with some major damage, then you get heroic virtue because God's decided that's what you need. What's going to take? I don't know if that answers your question.
Some people will get a bad marriage. Some people will get an illness. Some people will get poverty. Is that what you're?
Everyone gets crucified. There's a funny expression: if you have a happy marriage, you have a good life, and if you have a bad marriage, you're a philosopher.
And here Patrick says God will give you the grace to make it through your bad marriage, because we are talking just about bad marriages,
right? But the main thing we're talking about here is defining the darn thing so that we can operate within a framework that's objective and understood. And when you start adding partnership and oppression or love, for that matter, in the legal definition, all bets are off. And now you're in marriage counseling territory, and it's all predicated on we got to feel it. We got to work. We got to tweak our relationship so that we're all jamming here. And then
how would you define marriage then? Like how does the church define marriage?
It is the way the church defines. It's the exclusive and permanent right over the body for acts suitable for the generation of children. That's what it is.
Yeah, procreation of kids. Yeah, I don't think Vatican II goes against that. Correct. So
Vatican II says, "Have a nice time." That's the definition.
And what document is this, though? So I think
they get it from Gaudium et Spes, then they put it in canon law. The new canon law says marriage is marriage. The new canon law says marriage is marriage. That's what it is.
They would still say it's for procreation of kids.
Now they say it's for relationship.
And unity.
They say naturally ordered toward good of the spouses and procreation. So when you have it naturally ordered towards both, you are saying you have a two-headed monster. You have a zebra with two heads. Nature has two ends. No, it does not.
Well, marriage can be good, but I don't know. Like the man, I'm not against. Obviously, I think the man should lead. I think, obviously, Eve came from Adam to be his helpmate. I think Ephesians, the man leads. This is biblical, and I don't think Vatican II goes against that.
It does, because marriage is a love contract.
Well, I think you're reading into it the way you want to.
No, it's in black and white, and it
says I think you really are reading into it the way you want to, because it's so.
Let's hear what Amy has to say, because my point has been I don't believe in pitting Vatican II documents against the Council of Trent or any other ecumenical documents. So, if you read Vatican II Gaudium et Spes, you don't necessarily throw out Trent. It's all of a piece.
Correct.
Amy, are you still there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I think that I guess I more have looked at what John Paul II has said about theology of the body, and to me, what that is saying is that marriage is more for attaching yourself to your husband and to your wife, and using it that way to move forward. But I think that marriage is definitely more for a purification, in that we're always trying to detach ourselves from created things and attach ourselves to God alone. And if we do have some marriage that's oppressive, that is the best way for us to detach ourselves from created things and attach ourselves to God alone. So from that perspective, I mean, that's why I don't personally like theology of the body.
It should just
because
be called
people can
biology
check
of the
out.
body.
Say that again. Should be called what?
It should just be called biology of the body. That's all it is. Because when you start having theology of the body, you are now taking what is supernatural and calling it nature. You are saying that the conjugal act is no longer just for procreation. So it is like John Paul II says, it's a synthesis of love and procreation. So therefore, zebra's got to feel the love or it's not natural. And same with giraffes. This is why St. Thomas Aquinas says that it's the animal nature that is natural with humans. So theology of the body is where we get trans from and Bruce Jenner from and all that, because now nature is charity. It's weird. You're taking nature and mixing it in, or you're taking grace and mixing it. So this is why that's why Christopher West is in his spaceship going like marriage is this infinite groovy thing. No. Here, I gotta see if I can get this.
So they take the natural, they've taken the supernatural out of the and they flipped it around. Are you saying they've made the natural the supernatural, and then this?
I don't think Pope Francis is for transgenderism, or St. John Paul II was ever for that.
Of course not. But they are when
I think yet again, I think you're being very uncharitable and reading into these things the way you want
James,
to.
let me look at the black and white for you, and then you tell me if.
Well, yeah, you can pull things up, but I can't pull things up on screen to combat it either. And I didn't know we were going to get into a big. This just seems like a big crap on Vatican II session. So.
You may think it seems that way, but let's just read the word.
Well, that's the way it's coming across, and like. Vatican, after every council, there's going to be kind of, till the dust settles, it's always a mess. It's always been this way throughout church history. There's been multiple councils where things have been a mess. But what would you say now? Under Vatican II now, it's something like 80% of the new priests coming through are ultra-conservative. This is under Vatican II. So are you going to give Vatican II props?
No, Vatican II is a problem.
So you're not going to. Why wouldn't you though? Because under Vatican II, 80% of the priests are now ultra conservative.
Because.
So is this not a fruit of Vatican II then? So.
It's a fruit in spite of Vatican II.
And spite. Yeah, this is what I mean. This is nonsense. You got to abide by the council. I've got popes quoting on Vatican II. I know the magisterium. And the magisterium and the church propagates the Novus Ordo Mass. So, but I mean, you've got Pope St. Paul. The Second Vatican Council has invested its teachings with the authority of the Supreme Ordinary Magisterium. You've got St. John Paul II. With the passing of the years, the council documents have lost nothing of their value or brilliance, and take to heart as important and normative texts of the magisterium with the church's tradition. So, like I said,
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's take to heart some tradition right here.
Right, and I accept Vatican II, and marriage is for procreation, right?
Hold on, James. Time out a second. So you can see on the screen, this is the old code, 1013, right here, and you can see it, right? And the new code, you see that on your screen?
Yeah, I can barely.
Okay,
I have to.
So the primary end of marriage is procreation, and the secondary end is mutual help. And here's the new code based on Vatican II. The matrimonial covenant by which a man and a woman establish themselves a partnership is ordered toward good of the spouses and procreation. So, has the legal definition of marriage changed?
So, do you think marriage is not for the good of the spouses?
Correct. It's not.
It's not. So you don't think you should grow holier in marriage? It's a bit weird.
What's your question?
So if it's for the good of the spouses, right, we're all striving for heaven. That doesn't say the man shouldn't lead there. That's you're reading into that uncharitably. The man should lead, but it's also for the good. It's the man should lead the wife into heaven. It's for the good of the spouses. It's for the good of the man to lead. It's the good of the woman to submit. That's you can read into it that way. You're reading into it subjectively the way you want to, and you're turning into a hate Vatican II session, and that's very uncharitable from you.
So
James,
I would agree with. Can I comment?
Go ahead, Amy. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Amy.
Oh no, I wasn't. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mary.
All right. Thanks. No, I was. Well, no, I forgot what I was going to say.
And nothing in Vatican II goes against church teachings. That this would also be uncharitable interpretation.
Well, we have to interpret everything we see in Vatican II aligned with
exactly church tradition. Right. Exactly. And this guy is just turning. Sorry, I don't know your name, sir. But you're just trying to look at Vatican II and just like attacking it. But you're being very uncharitable.
The good of the spouses is getting to heaven. That is the ultimate
good. Correct. And nowhere does
wrong.
So what? So you don't think you should be more holy? And I accept Vatican II. The man should lead. I'm not against this. The man should have the final say.
Dude, focus like a laser. I'll help you out here. Let me help you out.
Help me out.
So, John, what do you say the good of the spouses is?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Okay, listen, please. Marriage is natural. That's what it is. Nature, not supernature. All this stuff about heaven is not the definition of marriage, okay?
So
that's supernatural. Marriage is nature. So let's
look at... it's saying the nature of marriage. And marriage is supernatural because it's God gave us marriage. James, so what is the nature of marriage,
James,
right?
When two unbaptized atheists enter a natural marriage.
That's right.
It's the same as when two Catholics enter a sacramental marriage as far as
it's not.
Hold on, pardon me. As far as what it's made of, as far as the actual nuts and bolts of the marriage, it's the same.
Sure, when atheists, what's the difference between an atheistic marriage and a Catholic marriage?
As far as the contract, nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So
so what is the contract? This is what I'm saying. Vatican II threw a blanket over the speed limit sign and said drive safely.
No, you're just being no. This is your personal interpretation to attack Vatican II.
Here's my question, buddy. Here's my question. When you look at the screen now, has the definition of marriage changed from the 1917 code to the 1983 code as far as the secondary ends? In other words,
it still says, yeah, that's a procreate. It still says, if you read the bottom, the procreation and education of offspring.
What is the secondary end of marriage after?
Well,
Vatican
I'd say that's
II?
the first end. So.
What? Sorry?
I would say that's the first end.
What is the secondary end of marriage?
Well, I think the argument would be
secondary end.
Well, what would mutual help be the same as good of the spouses?
Correct.
Do they mean the same thing?
Yes. But John Paul II, in his book Love and Responsibility, said...
Saint John Paul II. Do you believe he's a saint?
James, you got to keep your emotions at bay, buddy.
No, I'm calm. Do you believe that Saint John Paul II is a saint?
Yeah, because he's got a saint next to his name. So
awesome.
Anyway, so John Paul II said that in Love and Responsibility that good of the spouses is basically primary.
Yeah, but even that secondary, the recent canon law that you just shown, right? So that was the Code of Canon Law. It's the first canon law still in effect. Like that hasn't been defeated, right? So, like, what I don't understand.
It's abrogated. It's abrogated. So, when you look at these two definitions of marriage, do they contradict each other? That's my question.
I wouldn't say they do contradict each other.
Okay, so so it's good.
So what are you doing here then? You're just attacking the Second Vatican II because you have an agenda against Vatican II, and you think all these bad fruits have come from Vatican II.
That's not correct.
But when I point out the good fruits, how a lot of the modern priests now are ultra conservative, you say that is in spite of Vatican II. So you clearly have an agenda against Vatican II. So what is this? This is just a crap on Vatican II session where the magisterium and popes have told you to assent to Vatican II, but you're being kind of a groveling little child, just not going along with Vatican II, or you're saying everything that bad has ever happened stems from Vatican II.
I think it has more to do with softening the language of marriage has caused problems in understanding marriage in today's Catholic Church, right? So it's not, I don't think that John is saying all of Vatican II is horrible or something, but this particular situation that we are in with marriage has been so confusing. Why should we even be having this debate? I don't think that
I do agree with that. I think there's a lot of problems wrong with like Pearl, for example. I think she's like atheistic, and she seems to like hate women. But I don't think women should vote. I don't think women should hold political power. I think the man should lead in the household and have the final say. Definitely 100%. But and I actually do agree with the softening of language. I think that's a huge problem. But I think that's how you read into it. So you got to really take the conservative.
I want to speak to what Amy was saying. She's right. They're soft, like George Bush. They're trying to make a kinder and gentler marriage.
I would agree with that. I wouldn't disagree that's not a problem.
When you say marriage is ordered toward the good of the spouses and procreation, you have just redefined the primary.
So so I don't know how, but I don't see why you're taking a problem with that. Should marriage not be for the good of the spouses?
John,
not primarily. And when you say,
I agree with that as well. But you just said that the first code isn't taken out of bounds. Like the first code's still there, and it's still saying the procreation of kids. So this is, I don't know. I can kind of see where you're getting mad, but there's nothing heretical in here. There's nothing like this is still sound.
But it needs to be explained. That's the problem. When you say good of this, when you say it's ordered toward the good of the spouses, the missing word is it's ordered primarily toward procreation and secondarily towards good of the spouses.
Yeah, and I would agree that.
Don't put it in there. That's the problem. It's not mentioned. And when you don't mention it, you create a new primary purpose. Good of the spouses is de facto the new primary purpose of marriage because of the way it's written. So you've
still got procreation in there though. But do you think this could be
a secondary purpose? As a secondary
but do you think this could be a test from God to show obedience here, and we can still be conservative in light of this? Like there's nothing liberal in here. Like the good of the spouses just means getting to heaven, right? So
no, it does not. Good of the spouses, because it's a natural contract. It means helping other people out. It's under the umbrella of charity. Okay, that's what good of the spouses is.
Where do you get it? Are you getting that from an authoritative source, or is that just your interpretation?
I've studied plenty of canon law, and so the mutual help and a laying of concupiscence, that is the natural contract. You help your spouse out, okay? Like with laundry or whatever the heck it is. Two heads are better than one. 4 arms are better than 2. So that's what good of the spouses is. But like I said, and what Amy was saying, they want to inject love into the legal definition. And when you do that, you create a lot of confusion. And
I don't know. I think a lot of this is just coming down to how people interpret it. I mean, so yeah. But I do think, like in the new canon that you're showing there, the procreation should be listed above the good of the spouses. But
I think that you're just hating Vatican II, James. That's what you're doing.
No, hey, here's a question.
I love that.
What if you can't have children? What if you're, so does that go out the window? Put that back up there, please. The first is, right?
What if you can't have children?
Yeah. So then
that's fine. Listen,
that's off the table.
Yes.
So then your primary end, the primary
end of marriage is procreation. If you're infertile, so be it. If you have physical impotence, you cannot get married.
Right. It's off the table.
You would say, I think the word that should be inserted is potential. And so that actually would clear up that aspect of it. You have to have the potential.
There's no problems with that. Nobody has a problem figuring out what makes a valid marriage and what they mean by that. Everyone knows that physical impotence, it means. But now, if you look at the new, I got stuff I can pull up, but if you look at the new commentary on the new code, they'll say it's expanded from physical impotence. And now there's the object of consent, which is the right over the body. Here, let me see. Check this out. 10 to 13. Where is it? Okay, here. Canon 1081. The object of consent, perpetual and exclusive right over the body for acts. That is called the object of consent, James. That's the thing you're consenting to in marriage. Perpetual and exclusive right over the body for acts. Under the new code, it is mutually give and accept each other. Do you see what I mean? How they have used different words and wink, have created a new definition of marriage while not doing so. Do you see what I'm saying, James?
I can see your interpretation, yes.
And when you have, this is what Amy was kind of saying, when you have this kinder and gentler nature, like a total gift of self, who doesn't want that? The problem is you can't legally define that. And now you have...
But I would say there's nothing erroneous with that. Well, but I do believe it's a softening. But I think as Catholics we have to be charitable and take the interpretation, and it doesn't defeat the first canon. So it's kind of you put these two things, you're putting them side by side and saying there's kind of like contradiction here or softening. I'd certainly agree with the softening, but that you can use them side by side and be like, because it's Vatican II, it's in the light of tradition, right? So you're reading that in the light of tradition. So it's kind of like you could view Vatican II as kind of like the female side, and the old canon, I should say, is kind of like the male side, and you read these side by side. So one doesn't defeat the other.
Except that to me, the problem with the mutual giving of self is language that could exclude procreation, because that's where my biggest problem with that language comes in that it's saying you're just trying to satisfy your partner, and procreation is no longer the intent. And that's a big problem, since the primary end of marriage is procreation.
But we're Catholic, right? So it's obviously every sexual act, it has to be open to life. So like procreation's naturally going to be there. So
except for NFP, which I guess is a different topic, maybe.
Yeah, but you're still kind of open there. That's kind of I don't even know if I'll call it contraception, but it's like natural family planning. But so because obviously all Catholics are against artificials.
So the Code of Canon Law, there's a new commentary. This is the Bible of canon law. It was written in 2000. This is what all of the smarty pants people watch and look at when they try to figure out what do these canons mean, James. Okay. And so here they admit, after following the quote teaching of Vatican II, jurisprudence, as in the judges at the Rota, gradually began to recognize that the essential rights, the essence of marriage, the nature of marriage, and extend well beyond the perpetual and exclusive right over the body for acts. So after Vatican II, we're changing the essence, which is impossible to do, but they're doing it. Okay. And it was the formally articulated as the object was considered truly the only essential obligation was the right over the body. That was it. Then the obligations considered essentially expanded. And now to say initiating, sustaining a partnership, capacity for interpersonal relationship, etc. Willing to be friends, love, respect, trust, communicate, capable of self-revelation, understanding. Nobody knows what that means legally. So if your contract has a bunch of "we need to not be oppressed" in it, then all bets are off. And that's just why marriage is kind of, so let's keep going there real quick. So then it says, this is, I thought was interesting. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. It is impossible to make a complete listing of the rights and obligations that spouses have towards one another and to the marriage. After Vatican II, it is impossible to list the rights because it is impossible to define when you have good of the spouses as an end of marriage that is natural, as in they call it essential. So that's why we're here on this freaking video anyway, because if everyone knew procreation alone was the essence, like it was before, then stuff falls into place.
But the new code that you've put up before, that still says procreation in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know, this is splitting hairs because I don't even think we have too many disagreements on what marriage is.
It's important to, when you, okay, marriage is by nature ordered toward the good of the spouses and procreation. Now, the problem with this sentence is they don't specify primary and secondary. And when you do not specify it, you are saying that both are primary because both are essential. And you can only have one head, James. You can only have one first place finisher to the marathon. So which comes first, good of the spouses or procreation?
Well, I mean, personally, I would say the procreation, but I don't see how like, what is the good of the spouses? Like, willing the good of the other is to just make them holy. And we're reading this through a Catholic lens and in light of tradition. So,
but it has a natural definition. So, marriage is nature. It's marriage is nature, and the sacrament puts grace on top. You elevate it to a sacrament, but the nuts and bolts are nature. So the conjugal act is nature. It's not supernatural. It's nature.
So what would the good of the spouses? I don't know why you're okay. What's wrong with the good of the spouses? Because if it's the good of the spouses, it's just you're just wanting to be more holier. And how is that a bad thing? I don't know why you're having contention.
Let me answer your question. It's not about wanting to be holy. Good of the spouses is not a primary.
Is good not holy? Does good not equal holy?
It's
because this is through a Catholic lens, right? So what is good? That's just being more holy, being more Christ-like. So I don't know why you're taking contention with that.
Yeah. Okay. Good of the spouses is a secondary end, which means
I would agree with that. I don't know why that's.
So if you agree with that, then you cannot say that NFP is licit, and you cannot say that all these annulments can't work because they're
I don't believe in divorce. Catholics don't believe in divorce.
All right, okay. So I guess we're going to try to wrap this up, and let me go back to this. I'm going to share this tab instead. We're going to kind of paw through the rest of this. We were almost done, and then see what everyone's got stuff to do here. Let's see. So Ephesians, Christ. So let the wives be subs to their. Excuse me. He is the Savior of his body. Therefore, as the church is subject to Christ, so also let the wives be subject to their husbands in all things. Let me see. Is Mary gone? Maybe she split. This was just more stuff to try to.
But nowhere in Vatican II does this go against what's in the Bible.
Could you repeat that question?
So no, I was saying you're showing these now. I agree with all this. This is like nowhere in Vatican II does this so go against the Bible.
No, but where the rub is when you start saying that marriage is a love contract.
But this is your own words. Where does it say love contract?
It says it in Gaudium et Spes. Would you like me to find that one? It's right there in Gaudium et Spes 48. God, you're making me work.
Pull it up.
Okay.
I'm on my phone, so I can't. Unfortunately,
Right.
I can't pull this up, and we can't look through the sources. But
all right, fine. Here it is. Here to do. Let's find it real quick. I don't mean to keep you guys so long. 48. Huh? What's wrong?
I was just saying, when you type in Gaudium et Spes, it autofills it for you because everybody's looking that up.
Okay, here. It's just 48. There it is. Okay. Here we go. Share this tab instead. Bam. Okay. Let me see if we can find it. 48.
I have to look close.
Okay,
on my
here it is
screen.
right here. Do. Got it. By their very nature. Okay. Who by their compact of conjugal love. That's it right there.
Well, isn't conjugal love procreation?
It is.
Okay. Compact is a contract. That's what it means. Right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we have a contract of conjugal love. Okay. So when you say a love contract, that means that is the basis.
It doesn't say that. It says conjugal love, which is like is procreation, which is, I mean, you have to consummate your marriage.
Vatican II, when they say that, that's right. By the way, you can't consummate your marriage till death, because if marriage is a partnership of life and love, it's only consummated at death. That's why you can get the annulment. The new object of consent is no longer the conjugal act.
I don't know, bro. I just love Vatican II now. The way you're reading it is just so beautiful. I'm ascending more. I didn't think I could ascend more with Vatican II. I'm ascending to new heights I never thought was possible. So I want to thank you, Jim.
If when your wife takes your kids away and your money.
That's not in Vatican II, though. This is just your personal interpretation.
It never gets
Vatican II doesn't believe in divorce. My wife would, when God willing, I have a wife and I discern, right? She will never leave me because she'll be a biblical woman. So, I mean, and I will lead and she will submit to my final say. And I love Vatican II, by the way. I love Vatican II.
But the issue is also adding in the word unity, because they also more recently have added a equal weight to procreation and unity. So the unity could be just that feeling good with each other, right? And having that equal partnership and having good feelings in your relationship. And they have not defined unity as being something that is actually essential in the marriage, since the primary end of marriage is procreation, not unity.
But John was even showing that new canon. It says the procreation of kids. So I don't know what to do. Can we're all Catholics here. Why can't we attack Pearl? Like Pearl believes in divorce. Pearl believes in some very anti-Catholic ideals.
James, try to tone it down a tad and measure your words a little bit so you can get some. Okay, it's easy to just go.
I don't know how loud I'm coming across.
Now, just trying to stay focused. So say fewer words. Just think about it, okay? Before you just go on.
John, you've been dominating this whole conversation. So can we move on from Vatican II? Because I'm not willing. James isn't willing, and I don't know about Amy. I won't speak for her. We're not willing to throw Vatican II out.
Nor am I.
You can't. The magisterium in the church has said Vatican II. You have to.
Amy was just explaining how when you start saying unity is essential, and that's where it comes from. It comes from Canon 1055. Marriage is ordered toward good of the spouses and procreation.
Yeah. What's wrong with the good of the spouses? What's wrong with being more?
Let me try to answer your question, James. I'm going to answer your question. Okay. What's wrong with it is it's not designated as secondary here.
I would believe that's a problem, though, but still, the first code that you're showing there, we don't throw that out with Vatican II.
The problem is now when you've said you think it should be secondary. However, everyone else on the planet that's Vatican II says otherwise. And
that's
because when you look, I'm going to have to just interrupt you because you keep talking so much. When you go to out of Humanae Vitae, it says the unitive and the procreative significance are inseparable. That's not. What they mean by that is procreation and good of the spouses are inseparable. That's not true.
You're we all believe that the church cannot err, right? Cannot teach error, or wouldn't be the church that our
Correct.
Lord founded.
That's right.
And Vatican II, and the church is saying you must accept Vatican II. So
correct. I do accept
so
Vatican
like,
II.
what are we doing? What
I'm just describing, and so is Amy, that.
But I agree that like there have to be hard men in the church just being unapologetically Catholic.
Vatican II is vague on definition, and that's the problem. It's not wrong, it's vague. That's it. It's called weaponized ambiguity.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, well, it's all personal, but yeah.
No, it's just because it's not specified.
I'm a big Nicholas J. Fuentes fan. I don't know if you've heard of him before. He's this young Catholic guy that leads a conservative movement over in the States, America First. And he accepts Vatican II and Pope Francis. He's very conservative. He's like blacklisted on everything because he talks about taboo truths.
Okay. Let's wrap this up. We're going to let me see if there's anything else in here that's got to be said. Like manner, let wives be subject to their husbands, but in the hidden of a heart, incorruptibly being subjection. Sarah obeyed Adam, calling him Lord. Yeah, I think we already got to that. I think we're done. It's been cool, everybody. I guess Mary had to go. I got to go, and I'm sure Amy, don't you got a bunch of kids to take care of?
Yeah, I have 5.
Holy cow! All right. This has gone on about a half hour extra long. It always gets that way, but that's fine. There's a reason why we all came and talked. It's because, like James is a good example. He to try to nail this down. This is why we have Catholics fighting Catholics, because we have indefinition in the room.
Well, we just got to assent to the church and love Vatican II together.
I know, but if they don't, James, if you owe me some money and you say I owe you $4, we disagree because I'm not defining what the dollar amount is. This is what we're having. This is your weird monologue though that you're just adding on top of it. I think you're Americans, right? So you should follow E. Michael Jones if you know him, and Nicholas J. Fuentes. I think they're fantastic. And E. Michael Jones has Culture Wars magazine, and he's a Catholic in good standing in the church. Nicholas Fuentes is America First if we want positive change in society, and these are both men that think men should lead. So,
well, you bringing up Nicholas Fuentes makes your argument more understandable to me, because he really does push that a lot, right? But if you go and you look at Classic Theist, he kind of does have some pushback on some of that. So he's kind of his right-hand man on Catholicism.
I'm a big fan of Classical Theist and Christian B. Wagner, and they're very top apologists and theologians that accept Vatican II. So, John, I would highly recommend Christian B. Wagner and Classical Theist to you too. So.
Oh yeah, I know that guy. Actually, I want to try to talk to him. People have told me you should try to get on a show or whatever. I'm trying to kind of get his attention because
is this Theist or Wagner? I know Wagner is pretty easy to get in touch with. If you might have to pay it like $3.50 for his Patreon. You can go on his Discord.
Yeah. All right, you guys. It's been real. I thank you for coming on and hash some of this stuff out, because and then we're gonna put it on YouTube. And I like I say every time, anything we want to. Any questions and stuff in the comments, that's where we're going to nail it all down. And then hopefully we'll get James in there too to back up what he's saying or whatever. And then you do a little YouTube, don't you, Amy?
I do. No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time I've ever been on anything that would be on YouTube.
Wow. Okay. Because that people do stuff there too, of course. And then you can do the comments. That's why I like to just, instead of just saying stuff and running off, I want to back up everything I say. And then same with James, I hope. All right. Well, let's
All right. Thank you,
John. God bless you.
Everybody.
God bless you guys.
Bye-bye.